President of the Minneapolis City Council. I'm going to call to order this regular meeting for Friday, October 2nd. Before we proceed, I'll note that this meeting has remote participation from City Council members and City staff, as authorized under the provisions of the Minnesota Open Meeting Law, Section 13D.021, due to the declared state of local public health emergency. At this time, I'll ask the clerk to call the roll to verify the presence of a quorum.
Councilmember Schrader.
Here.
Councilmember Osman.
Present.
Councilmember Cunningham.
Present.
Councilmember Ellison.
Present.
Councilmember Goodman.
Present.
Councilmember Johnson.
Present.
Councilmember Palmisano.
Present.
Councilmember Gordon.
Here.
Councilmember Cano.
Here.
Councilmember Reich.
Here.
Councilmember Fletcher.
Here.
Vice President Jenkins.
Present.
President Bender.
Here.
There are 13 members present.
Let the record reflect that we have a quorum. The agenda for today's meeting is before us. Are there any amendments to the agenda? Seeing none, is there a motion to adopt the agenda?
So moved. Second.
Thank you. Clerk will call the roll.
Councilmember Schrader.
Aye.
Councilmember Osman.
Aye.
Councilmember Cunningham.
Aye.
Councilmember Ellison.
Aye.
Councilmember Goodman.
Aye.
Councilmember Johnson.
Aye.
Councilmember Palmisano.
Aye.
Councilmember Gordon.
Aye.
Councilmember Cano.
Aye.
Councilmember Reich.
Aye.
Councilmember Fletcher.
Aye.
Vice President Jenkins.
Aye.
President Bender.
Aye.
There are 13 ayes.
That carries and the agenda is adopted. Next is the minutes of our regular meeting from September 8th. May I have a motion to accept those minutes?
So moved, Madam President.
Second.
Thank you. Clerk will call the roll.
Councilmember Schrader.
Aye.
Councilmember Osman.
Aye.
Councilmember Cunningham.
Aye.
Councilmember Ellison.
Aye.
Councilmember Goodman.
Aye.
Councilmember Johnson.
Aye.
Councilmember Palmisano.
Aye.
Councilmember Gordon.
Aye.
Councilmember Cano.
Aye.
Councilmember Reich.
Aye.
Councilmember Fletcher.
Aye.
Vice President Jenkins.
Aye.
President Bender.
Aye.
There are 13 ayes.
That carries and those minutes are accepted. Next, we have the referral of petitions, communications, and reports to the proper committees. May I have that motion, please?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. The clerk will call the roll.
Councilmember Schrader.
Aye.
Councilmember Osman.
Aye.
Councilmember Cunningham.
Aye.
Councilmember Ellison.
Aye.
Councilmember Goodman.
Aye.
Councilmember Johnson.
Aye.
Councilmember Palmisano.
Aye.
Councilmember Gordon.
Aye.
Councilmember Cano.
Aye.
Councilmember Reich.
Aye.
Councilmember Fletcher.
Aye.
Vice President Jenkins.
Aye.
President Bender.
Aye.
There are 13 ayes.
That carries and those matters are referred. Part of our agenda today is a resolution honoring the service of Senator Jeff Hayden. So I'm going to pause to see if we have our guests for that item on the call.
Madam President, we don't have the guests on call yet, so we're still on standby for that presentation.
Okay, so just let me know when we're ready for that item and we will return back to that. So for now, we will proceed to the order of new business, which is begins with the mayor's report on the state of our local health emergency, addressing the city's response to COVID-19. Welcome, Mayor.
Good morning, Council President and members of the Council. It's good to be here with all of you today, and thank you for the opportunity to share this regular COVID related report, and I'll just dive right in. We have had 17 emergency regulations to date. There is a strong likelihood of one additional emergency regulation coming relatively shortly, which is predominantly administrative and looks to amend an earlier emergency regulation relating to time off due to COVID-19 and or paid sick, specifically for city-related employees. The health report by the numbers. These are the statewide statistics here. The total approximate number of completed tests is 2,055,888. Total positives are 100,200. Patients no longer need to be isolated are 89,000, 2,049 deaths. The deaths among long-term care and assisted living facilities are at 1,465, so still a substantial portion of the total number of deaths. Hennepin County positive cases are 27,873 with 937 deaths. The number of healthcare workers is 10,505. There have been 7,758 people hospitalized with total cases hospitalized in ICU at 2,148. For Minneapolis case information, we are up at 10,868 total positive cases with 10,110 recovered and 245 deceased. There is now a Minneapolis demographic graph that you can see. I want to flip to the next slide there. If there are any questions about that, we certainly can have our health department answer, but I'm not going to get into it in depth. But the rates have increased significantly in both the city and the state over the past couple of weeks. The total number of cases increased by 5% over the previous week. However, there has not been a similar increase in hospitalizations and ICU admissions. Hospitalizations increased by 3% and ICU admissions increased by 1%. The average daily number of cases increased by 20 cases per day compared to the previous 2 weeks. And as of September 22nd, the state is at 17.2 cases per 100,000, and Minneapolis is at 17.4 cases per 100,000. I'll just note that this particular formula, this number of cases per 1,000, is one that we've been following for quite some time. This is substantially up over the last month and a half or so. So these numbers put both Minnesota and Minneapolis in what's called the orange category, which represents a more accelerated spread of COVID-19. And as for businesses, inspectors conducted this is business inspections. Inspectors conducted a bar sweep of 18 bars on September 25th and completed 2 follow-up visits on September 26th to ensure the violations were addressed. The sweep was conducted in response to increasing COVID-19 cases among young adults, and we are continuing to see that increase among that demographic. Moving on to case investigations and contact tracing, MHD is conducting over 50 case investigations and contact follow-ups per day for individuals diagnosed with COVID-19. And currently there are 22 investigators, including 6 non-MHD enterprise staff. Of the 10,000 plus cases in Minneapolis, 26% of interviews of Minneapolis residents are in a language other than English. Moving on to community testing and flu shots. On Saturday, September 26th, 90 people were tested at the Islamic Center, the Abu Bakr Islamic Center in South Minneapolis, and 99 people were tested at Hennepin Avenue United Methodist Church. On Tuesday, September 29th, we had about 223 COVID-19 tests and 221 flu shots. Those were given over East Side Neighborhood Services. And then going forward in 2020 and 2021, MHD is looking for ways to utilize employees across the city enterprise to help support community testing events and other COVID-19 response efforts. There's a ton of upcoming events. I'm not going to go through all of them, but they should be in your listed in your written report. Moving on to PPE, MHD continues to distribute PPE, including N95, surgical and cloth masks, as well as hand sanitizer to a number of different community requesters. This past week, staff distributed 3,280 masks and 226 bottles of hand sanitizer. There were fewer requests compared to previous weeks, which may reflect stabilizing supply chain for these products, although partners continue to engage in community distribution. Recipients include small businesses, religious organizations, and other community sites, such as the Y on Lake Street, which hosts a weekly food shelf and hygiene product distribution. Moving on to procurement, as of September 30th, 2020, there has been 5,575,459 spent. The total increase of 50,000 can be attributed to contracts with community organizations through the health department for COVID-19 testing support. And again, this is not at all the total COVID-related spend. That is estimated much higher in the tens and even more of millions. If there are any questions, so the next topic is public safety. I'm going to skim through this briefly as it's not part of the COVID-19, as part of the COVID-19 general report. Violent crime is up about 18.8% year to date. Property crimes are up 2.8% year to date. Year to date still has the highest shooting victim total in the last 5 years. Moving down to the Office of Violence Prevention, all 4 outreach teams for Minneapolis Violence Interruption Initiative have started working. We've started in South and North Minneapolis, and they're working Tuesday to Sunday. And then GVI continues to their work in growing capacity over on the South side.
Mayor, there are 2 questions, Councilmember Fletcher and then Council Vice President Jenkins.
Thank you, Council President. Mayor, I was trying to jump in before we got to public safety, so I'm going to take us back to COVID. I know you're getting the same questions that I am, and we've seen, I think, sort of contradictory messages around both, obviously, restaurant owners asking for regulations to be loosened, and at the same time, workers even organizing unions at times to demand safer working conditions under the current regulations because they don't feel adequately protected. And so we're hearing the whole gamut of frustration with the pandemic. And I wonder if you could talk a little bit about how that's influencing your thinking on the regulatory landscape and if you're considering any changes, or given the data that we are seeing an increase in cases per 100,000, if staying the course, if you feel like we're still in the right place from a regulatory perspective.
Thank you, Councilmember Fletcher. As for a regulatory perspective of some of our bars and restaurants, which I believe is predominantly what you're referencing right now, we are, I don't know if staying the course is the right term. We're listening to the experts. I do not anticipate dropping below what the state requirements are. In fact, we can't drop below what the state requirements are, as those are a baseline. The extra regulation that we have added to what the state baseline is applies to bars. And there was a lot of data and very good reasoning to have that additional regulation, which would prevent people congregating in large numbers to try to get a drink. Rather, I've seen numerous bars adjust and adapt by literally pushing tables up to the bars, and that's acceptable. So, so long as you don't have large numbers of people congregating around the bar itself to get a drink, then that is what can help us to inhibit the spread of COVID-19. So certainly, as we see numbers shift downward, we can look at adjusting the regulations. But as of right now, the number of cases per 100,000 has actually gone up in the last month, and as we've seen, much of the spread is in and from our younger populations, and many of the hotspots, and in fact a very large percentage of the hotspots around the state, not necessarily in Minneapolis, but around the state of Minnesota, continue to be bars. Councilmember Fletcher, if you were referring to bars, that probably answered your question. If you were referring to other aspects, it probably didn't. I'm happy to elaborate further.
That answered my question for now. I just wanted to get a general sense of how you're approaching the question, and because I've been getting a lot of questions about it, and I think you answered it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Council Vice President Jenkins.
Thank you, Madam President, and thank you, Mayor Fry. I just wanted to offer my condolences to the loved ones and families of the 245 Minneapolitans who have lost their lives to the coronavirus. You know, our numbers are, you know, really continuously moving up in the city and in the state. And just recognizing and continuing to emphasize the importance of protecting yourself and protecting others by wearing masks. So yeah, I wanted to just offer those condolences to the families and loved ones of those who have been deceased. Thank you.
Thank you, Council Vice President. I put myself in queue. I actually have a question, especially given that coronavirus cases are on the rise. How much of the CARES Act funds that have been allocated to Minneapolis is left? And then my understanding is those funds need to be spent by the end of the year. So what is the plan to deploy those funds in a way that will best support our community in their health and safety in this time?
Thank you, Madam President. I don't have the exact figure, the most up-to-date figure in front of me right now, but if I could direct that question to Mr. Ruff and or Director Gretchen Muskamp.
Mr. Mayor, Council President Bender, members of the City Council, this is Mark Ruff, the City Coordinator. I do not have those exact numbers in front of me either. I can tell you that generally the city, there are several sources of CARES funding. When I talk about the CARES Act, we have, for example, had money come to our CPED department that is CARES money specific for homelessness response. That is more than $10 million. And as the council is aware, we have deployed that for various activities specifically related to some shelters and also additional staff support. The money you are, assuming, referring to, Council President, is the $32 million in allocation that the city received from the state of Minnesota. And you know, all direct requests that have been made from the health department for services that relate to contact tracing, to PPE, personal protective equipment, to our efforts around community engagement and testing efforts have been funded with that money. We also have a variety of workforce deployments. So for example, for our elections, because of COVID, we've had to go to provide many more opportunities for mail-in ballots, and those costs also are being utilizing CARES funding. We have not brought a request for council action to date on this item, in part because Congress has been talking about for a number of months a supplemental, essentially CARES Act funding that would both extend the deadline for when that money has to be expended. Right now, commitments have to occur in November and expenditures by the end of December. We've been waiting to see whether Congress would act to both increase that amount of funding as well as extend that deadline. As obviously we get closer to the end of the year, that's less and less likely. But we do anticipate that we will come to the council for a formal action to allocate all of that money. We can assure you, though, that we will spend all of that money because some of the eligible costs also include payroll costs associated with first responder departments, including police, fire, 911, and the health department. And so it is more a matter of allocating that money than it is necessarily spending all of that money, because we have more than enough costs to cover all of the $32 million.
And what is the approximate range of funds that have been spent so far? Is it more like 1 million or more like 30 million?
Again, we will spend all of the eligible costs. If you're asking for a direct line item, what have we spent, then we certainly will provide that to council. We actually just had a conversation this morning about refining those numbers. Some of those numbers are related to the amended 2020 budget. So I think it's better, Council President, if we come back to you with a more specific set of numbers and a report, and be happy to do that.
Yes, I think that is clearly needed. It's October. And so I think, as policymakers, we're hearing a lot about how strained and stressed our staff are, how limited capacity is to work on various priorities. And so I do think it's really important to engage the City Council in this discussion about how to allocate $32 million of federal money that needs to be spent by December, especially in light of all the messages that we are hearing from staff across the enterprise about capacity issues. So I will look forward to following up and making sure that this is on an agenda very soon, given that it is now October. I don't see any other questions.
Moving on to fire. The Fire Prevention Week this year is October 4th through 10th. The MFD will not be hosting an award ceremony this year due to the pandemic. And I do just want to thank our Chief Friedel for all of the work that he has been doing throughout. For state and federal activity, the legislature has not taken any official action since the conclusion of the fourth special session, which was 2 weeks ago. Last week, the Minnesota House convened a new bipartisan select committee on racial justice, and the committee was created in follow-up to the House passing a resolution declaring racism as a public health crisis. The Senate Rules Committee met yesterday to get a briefing of the state's COVID-related expenses. As for a federal update, negotiations between the House and the Senate and White House continue around a fourth COVID stimulus. And in good news, Speaker Pelosi and Treasury Secretary have been speaking, and late Monday evening, the House released an updated HEROES bill, which includes $179 billion for direct local aid. As for the GAP funding package, community prevention partners, Minneapolis Public Housing Authority, and city staff continue to work through the list to complete the full verification and approval process for each applicant. And as of Wednesday, September 30th, 1,193 applications have been approved, totaling $1,825,258.96 in emergency assistance payments. And finally, as for the forgivable loan program, the small business, as I've mentioned in previous reports, the small business forgivable loans have been fully awarded. Thank you, council members, and happy to stand for any additional questions.
Thank you, Mayor. Are there any questions for Mayor Fry? I don't see any. I am going to move to refer to the POGO committee next cycle a report on the CARES Act funds spent to date and anything staff would like to present about planned spending between now and the end of the year. Is there a second for that motion?
Second.
Thank you. Clerk will call the roll.
Councilmember Schrader.
Aye.
Councilmember Osman.
Aye.
Councilmember Cunningham.
Aye.
Councilmember Ellison.
Aye.
Councilmember Goodman.
Aye.
Councilmember Johnson.
Aye.
Councilmember Palmisano.
Aye.
Councilmember Gordon.
Aye.
Councilmember Cano.
Aye.
Councilmember Reich.
Aye.
Councilmember
Aye.
Fletcher.
Aye.
Vice President Jenkins.
Aye.
President Bender.
Aye.
There are 13 ayes.
That carries, and that matter is referred to POGO. We'll look forward to that information next cycle. And I will then also direct the clerk to receive and file the mayor's report. That concludes this item. I hate to keep doing this. I will just check to see if our guests are here. I don't want to belabor this.
Madam Madam President, my apologies. We were unable to accommodate the senator who the technical challenges were an issue. So I believe that Council Vice President Jenkins is prepared to read that resolution at the proper order of the agenda, and the formal resolution will be presented to Senator Hayden at a community-based event to recognize his service.
Great, thank you, Mr. Clark. All right, with that, we will proceed to the order of the reports from our standing committees. We will begin with the report from our Business Inspections, Housing and Zoning Committee, presented by the committee's chair, Councilmember Goodman.
Thank you, Madam President. I'm just pulling up that report. The Business Inspections, Housing and Zoning Committee has a number of items moving forward for approval this morning. Item number 1 is an on-sale liquor license for Gayu Kaku at 3025 Lindale Avenue South. Item 2 is a application for Berry Sweet Kitchen at 5406 34th Avenue. Item number 3 is the commercial property sale ordinance, which is being postponed one cycle. This was moved forward without recommendation. Item 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8 are all land sales. Item number 9 is a minor subdivision and variances appeal. The committee moved to grant the appeal and adopt the findings which are written below. Item number 10 are the liquor license approvals, and 11 are the gambling license approvals. Item number 12 are the local approval of special law changes for the Sculpture Garden, Boom Island Park, and the Downtown Commons Park. This is to adopt a state law change. Item number 13 is the extension of the maturity date for an affordable housing project financing at Lydia Apartments. I'll note that that was one of the first things I worked on when I came to the city, and now the affordability period has ended. And so we're extending, all of the staff have been working to extend by 27 more years. Item 14 are contract amendments with eligible providers for employment and training services, and there are a number. American Indian OIC, Avivo, Clues, Eastside Neighborhood Services, Emerge, Goodwill Easter Seals, Hired, Jewish Family and Children's Services, Deed, Pillsbury Communities, Project for Pride and Living, Southeast Asian Refugee Committee, and the Urban League. Item number 15 is a bond issuance at Children's Healthcare, and item number 16 is a vacation resolution correction for Danny Perkins at 336 2nd Street Northeast. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions about any of the items on our agenda and move approval.
Chair Goodman has moved the committee report. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, and just confirming, Councilmember Goodman has moved the report, including postponement one cycle, for item 3.
Thank you, Madam President.
Great. With no discussion, clerk will call the roll.
Councilmember Schrader.
No on number 9, yes on all the rest.
Councilmember Osman.
Aye.
Councilmember Cunningham.
Aye.
Councilmember Ellison.
Aye.
Councilmember Goodman.
Aye.
Councilmember Johnson.
Aye.
Councilmember Palmisano.
Aye.
Councilmember Gordon.
Aye.
Councilmember Cano.
Aye.
Councilmember Reich.
Aye.
Councilmember Fletcher.
Aye.
Vice President Jenkins.
Aye.
President Bender.
Aye.
There are 13 ayes on the report except for item number 9, which has 12 ayes and 1 nay.
Thank you. Those items carry, and item 3 will come back next cycle. Next, we have the report from the Policy and Government Oversight Committee given by the committee chair, Council Vice President Jenkins.
Thank you, Madam President. The Policy and Government Oversight Committee brings forward 9 items today. Item number 1 is an update to the 2021 City Council and Committees calendar to reflect the Council's current organization. Item number 2 is the election judge and deputy city clerk appointments for the November 3rd general election. Item number 3 is a legal settlement related to the workers' compensation claim of Travis Payer. Item number 4 is the capital project closeout with appropriation and bond reallocation adjustments within the Municipal Building Commission's Capital Project Fund. Item number 5 is a legal settlement in the lawsuit Mohammed Ahmed v. City of Minneapolis. Item number 6 is a contract amendment for support and maintenance of the city's compliance management system. Item number 7 is a legal settlement related to Andrew Brown v. Nicholas Scorata Jr. Item number 8 is the contract amendment with DataNet for the city's Legislative Information Management System, or LIMS. Item number 9 is the acceptance of a grant from the Center for Tech and Civic Life for the 2020 elections. And Madam President, I move approval of the POGO committee report.
Council Vice President Jenkins has moved the committee report. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, clerk will call the roll.
Councilmember Schrader.
Aye.
Councilmember Osman.
Aye.
Councilmember Cunningham.
Aye.
Councilmember Ellison.
Aye.
Councilmember Goodman.
Aye.
Councilmember Johnson.
Aye.
Councilmember Palmisano.
Aye.
Councilmember Gordon.
Aye.
Councilmember Kano.
Aye.
Councilmember Reich.
Aye.
Councilmember Fletcher.
Aye.
Vice President Jenkins.
Aye.
President Bender.
Aye.
There are 13 ayes.
That carries and that report is adopted. Next, we will pause in our committee reports and take up the resolution that we have on our agenda today. It is an honorary resolution recognizing Senator Jeff Hayden, and I will turn it over to the 8th Ward Councilmember and Council Vice President Jenkins for this item.
Thank you so much, Madam President. And, you know, we have overcome the technical challenges that we all have been navigating and dealing with over these past several months. But I want to welcome the Senator and really just acknowledge his tremendous service and contributions to the city of Minneapolis, to the state of Minnesota, and specifically to the 8th Ward. Senator Hayden is a resident of Ward 8, and we're deeply, deeply proud of him and want to just make sure that we are giving a proper recognition of his services. And I want to thank all my colleagues for supporting this honorary resolution as well. Resolution honoring the civic service and community contributions of Minnesota State Senator Jeff Hayden. Whereas Senator Jeff Hayden is the longest serving African American man first elected in 2011 in the Minnesota State Senate representing District 62. Prior to that, serving in the House of Representatives for 2 years, and whereas Senator Hayden is a steadfast champion for equitable health and human services, finance, and policy initiatives, and is unwavering in his support for children and families. He has been instrumental in securing funds and appropriations that ensure the advancement of and protections to the essential programs for our communities, such as Minnesota Care, child care assistance, housing assistance programs, mental health treatment programs, opiate epidemic response, foster care and child welfare programs, Minnesota Family Investment Program, or MFIP, youth programs, drug assistance programs for people living with HIV and AIDS, and many others. And whereas Senator Hayden has served as an important leadership capacity at the legislature, first elected as Deputy Majority Leader and then as the Assistant Minority Leader by his DFL colleagues in the Senate, and is a founding member of the People of Color and Indigenous PACI Caucus, a leader in working to eliminate racial disparities and representing the needs of our most marginalized communities. And whereas in his leadership positions, Senator Hayden has forged partnerships on both sides of the aisle, garnering Senate support for critical bills such as the Minnesota African American Preservation Act, the Taylor Hayden Gun Violence Prevention Act, and passing the state's first minimum wage increase in over a decade. And whereas Senator Hayden has a legacy of pushing for systemic and meaningful change to address racism in our criminal justice system, sponsoring numerous bills aimed at improving police policy and safe interactions with the public, such as use of force, residency requirements for officers, critical incidents review process for officer-involved shootings, autism training, mental health crisis training, use of crowd control weapons, as well as other criminal justice reforms related to the right to vote restoration upon release from incarceration, restricting the use of bail contingencies, and promoting release, among other transformative proposals. And whereas Senator Hayden, along with myself, David Rubidor, Alfred Port, Tiffany Green, Deborah Watts, and Leah Hargett created the Minnesota Renaissance Initiative to begin the work of revitalizing 38th and Chicago Avenue, dubbed the Soul of the City, resulting in the 38th and Chicago Small Area Plan, which was later adopted by the city of Minneapolis. And whereas Senator Hayden, along with myself and several others, co-founded Hennepin Powderhorn Partners Neighborhood Social Service Delivery Model at 12th and Lake Street. There, we developed a comprehensive wraparound community-based network for families receiving social services through Hennepin County. That model eventually became the primary mode of service delivery throughout Hennepin County. And whereas Senator Hayden is a natural-born leader who developed his pride for community service, learning the importance of advocacy from his family, including his father, Peter Hayden, founder of Turning Point Incorporated, a culturally specific chemical dependency treatment center, and from his aunt, Mary Miro, who led the Minneapolis Park and Recreation Board as superintendent and then subsequent board member. And whereas prior to his career as an elected official, Senator Hayden served in City Hall as a senior policy aide with myself for Council Member Gary Schiff, and was a founding member of the City of Lakes Community Land Trust. He has served his community on the board of directors of the Bryant Neighborhood Association, as well as past president of the Powderhorn Park Neighborhood Association, and was also a nonprofit manager for Hearth Connection, where he worked as an affordable housing advocate. And whereas Senator Hayden remains a dedicated husband and father to his wife Terry and to their 2 children in the Bryant neighborhood, a historically Black area that has nurtured and produced many South Minneapolis civic leaders, including Mayor Sharon Sells Belton, Judge Pam Alexander, Judge LeJune Lang, Judge Tanya Bransford, Dr. Richard Green, Hennepin County Commissioner Angela Conley, and City Council Vice President Andrea Jenkins. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the City Council of the City of Minneapolis that the Mayor and City Council do hereby recognize and honor Senator Jeff Hayden for his dedication and tireless work on behalf of our city, our state, and our communities with deep gratitude. Congratulations and thank you, Senator, for all of your work for the residents of the city of Minneapolis, the state of Minnesota, and even more specifically, the Bryant neighborhood. We love you and we look forward to supporting your leadership in many, many years to come. And I want to offer you an opportunity to share some remarks if you are technologically able to. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Councilmember Jenkins and the members of the City Council. I didn't I certainly didn't think I would be emotional this morning. I just want to say thanks. I think about 20 years ago, or even longer than that, but when I walked into the halls of City Council, didn't really know much about how City Council worked or how government worked. I knew my community. I knew the work that we had done prior to that and how we wanted to figure out how to make our community better. I knew that this is a community that my mother grew up in, and my grandfather, Willard John Merrill, bought a house in 1918 right next to the freeway there. And I knew that there were a lot of things that happened in our community. It was a robust and rich community, but there were things that happened to our community, especially in the Black community, that we didn't know why, like why 35W went the route it went and destroyed the equity of my grandfather's house, or why things weren't happening the way that they were supposed to. And so when Gary asked me to help him on his campaign and subsequently come down to City Hall, I didn't know it would launch me into this career of policy and politics and figuring out how to make things better for our community. And so I'm really grateful. And I think looking at you guys in the Minneapolis City Council, this is where I really learned that. I think of Councilmember Goodman and others that took me under her wing and taught me how this ideal of development and zoning and planning and what we should do and how that can transform people's lives if we do it the right way. So with that being said, listening to all of those things, I kind of forgot about half of those because you just kind of every day pick up, grab your lunch pail, and if you will, and go and do your work. But I'm proud of those accomplishments. There's many more to come. I'm still relatively young, depending on who you talk to, and have a lot more to do. But I guess I'll just say this without, if I can get through it, is that the work that you guys do at the Minneapolis City Council is so important. And I know that you've been through a patch here, but hold your head up high. You're going to get through it. We're all going to get through it. I'm going to be there with you in different capacities. I'm not going anywhere, if you will. I'm so proud to have worked. I didn't get a chance to recognize Gene last week or 2 weeks ago, working with your IGR folks and all of the mayors that I served with, all of the council members. I think you guys always know that no matter what, you might come to my office and we might disagree, but I was going to have the city's back because it's where I'm from. It's where I grew up. It's where my people are from. And I'm always going to be there for you. So once again, I just want to say thank you, Council President Bender, Council Vice President Jenkins, and all that are on the call today, and all the council members. The most honorable thing that I've ever done is to serve my community, and it started out in this body right here. So once again, thank you, thank you, thank you. I really appreciate it, and I'm really, really humbled and forever in your gratitude for you to recognize me publicly for the work that I've been able to accomplish.
Thank you so much for those comments, Senator. And I will now turn it back over to Council President Bender. May I make just one more announcement? Council President, I do want to just note that on October 10th, there will be a community celebration recognizing Senator Hayden at Sabantaney Community Center from 1 to 3, and I invite all my colleagues and any of the listening public that may want to attend this socially distant event and outdoors at Sabantaney Community Center. Thank you.
Thank you, Council Vice President. I know we also have on the line here just to listen and support the former Council Vice President Elizabeth Glidden, another member of the all-star team, along with the two of you from Ward 8 in the Senate District. And I think Mr. Ranieri is on the line and wanted to offer some reflections as well. And Mr. Ranieri, if you've called in on a phone, you'll need to push *6 to unmute. I see Mr. Ranieri's screen highlighted. Mr. Ranieri, I think you may be muted. We heard you very briefly. There we go.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Madam President, maybe given the time and your busy schedule, I expect to attend the meeting next week. I wonder if I can save my comments for the community meeting then.
Great, thank you. And thanks for being with us here. Thank you, Mr. Ranieri. Before we close out, I'll just offer my thanks as well to Senator Hayden, who overlaps with Ward 10 in the Whittier neighborhood. All of us have benefited from your deep roots in this community. And when we met, I was pregnant with my little one, and I was just this crazy kid running for city council, and you were one of the people who just sat with me and talked about Minneapolis and history and how we got here. And your family's story is one of the really critical stories of Minneapolis that we're all working so hard to, forge forward and to do better by our communities. And so that leadership that you've brought as such an able policymaker and politician and leader, I know is rooted in that story and in that history. And so thank you for sharing all of that with all of us and being such an important mentor to many of us. So I will thank you again, all of you, for being here. It's harder to see in the virtual environment, but thanks to our guests who are here to honor the senator, and I know we'll look forward to the community event. With that, I will move this resolution forward and ask the clerk to please call the roll.
Councilmember Schrader.
Aye.
Councilmember Osman.
Aye.
Councilmember Cunningham.
Aye.
Councilmember Ellison.
Aye.
Councilmember Goodman.
Aye.
Councilmember Johnson.
Aye.
Councilmember Palmisano.
Aye.
Councilmember Gordon.
Aye.
Councilmember Cano.
Aye.
Councilmember Reich.
Aye.
Councilmember Fletcher.
Aye.
Vice President Jenkins.
Aye.
President Bender.
Aye.
There are 13 ayes.
That carries, and that resolution is adopted. With that, we'll return back to the order of committee reports. And so we are on the report from the Public Health and Safety Committee that will be presented by the chair, Councilmember Cunningham.
Thank you, Madam President. The Public Health and Safety Committee is bringing forward 7 items for approval today. The first is a passage of an ordinance related to food catering. Item number 2 is assistance to firefighters grant COVID-19 supplemental program from FEMA to purchase PPE for the fire department. Item number 3 is accepting a training reimbursement from the Minnesota Board of Firefighter Training and Education. Item number 4 is authorizing an agreement with the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention to host 4 public health associates. Item number 5 is authorizing a contract with the City University of New York on behalf of John Jay College of Criminal Justice for strategic advising related to our group violence intervention strategy. Item number 6 is authorizing a one-time transfer from the City Attorney's Office to the Police Department for the personnel costs related to 2 grant-funded community navigator positions. And item number 7 is approving an engagement plan outline and deliverables related to the transforming community safety work. I move approval of those 7 items.
Thank you. Chair Cunningham has moved the committee report. Is there any discussion? I put myself in queue to just comment briefly on the last item. I just want to really thank all of the staff who've contributed to this timeline for community engagement and decision making around our resolution from June 12th to transform community safety in Minneapolis, of course, building off of years of work from the 911 MPD working group, the staff in the health department, and many across the enterprise who have been building up the systems of violence prevention, again, of reviewing our current system of safety to look for ways we can do better by delivering the right response to the right call, and so much more. The work of many of you to focus in reform of our current system of safety. You know, it is clear after these months that having a large number of staff work on this effort with a small amount of their time on top of their other responsibilities is causing frustration and delay. And so I think we have made a lot of progress over the past few weeks toward getting some very clear, dedicated staff time focused on this initiative. And now that the committee and hopefully the council have approved this more clear timeline initiated and developed by the Office of Violence Prevention, I think we now have a very clear set of staffing needs. And, you know, to be honest, we are going to need the full support of Mayor Fry and the city coordinator and a number of other staff throughout the enterprise in order to pick one of the many solutions and make it happen so that this effort is adequately staffed. Absent that kind of support, we may need to bring something through council more formally. I think when we as policymakers try to get into the weeds of specifics of which staff are doing what, it's really not ideal. So I'm very hopeful that one of the many options we have come up with in the past several weeks will come to fruition. I'm very hopeful that the effort that myself and Councilmember Cunningham and others have put into coordinating with the mayor's office and to working with the department heads will help us really, get this work adequately staffed so that members of the public who are so eager to participate in this important conversation have an appropriate avenue to do so. And we all recognize that staffing this work will require us to shift priorities. I think it's clear that the council and the public, really expect and need us to do so. Again, just speaking back to the need for this work to be staffed and for the staff who are taking their time to do this are adequately supported. So with that, I'll turn it over to Councilmember Cunningham and then Fletcher, the chair and vice chair of the Public Safety Committee. Thanks to both of you for all of the work that you have put in over the last months to get us to where we are. Councilmember Cunningham.
Thank you, Madam President, and thank you for your participation in getting this work adequately staffed and moving. I actually had discussed at committee that I would be bringing forward a staff direction today if a solution as to how to fully staff the work that is being taken action on now here had not been identified by today. I am happy to share that we have made significant progress in building an internal staffing infrastructure to carry out this transforming community safety work. To institutionalize this structure, we will be bringing forward an organizational chart for action through the Public Health and Safety Committee this upcoming cycle. We as a council need to be clear and understand that the approved staff dedicated to this staffing infrastructure will have to delay work that they're working on in order to carry out and prioritize this work. There has been a lot of barriers for us to move through to get to this point of addressing the staffing needs for this work. So I do want to thank the staff those who have made the commitment to dedicate staff time to this work, because this work, our residents of our city have demanded that we as the city of Minneapolis prioritize this. We have a little more work that needs to be done before we're fully there, but the puzzle has almost been put together. Given that our lines of work are aligned in many ways and share outcomes, we can really only move forward to solutions in partnership with the mayor and city coordinator. So I look forward to getting this staffing solution over the finish line so we can get the real work underway sustainably. In addition to what I will be bringing forward, there will also be a financial related resolution included in as a package. Councilmember Fletcher, who is the author of this financial resolution, can speak more to that item. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Councilmember Cunningham. Councilmember Fletcher.
Thank you, Council President. And first, I just want to really sort of restate the very positive feedback that we had in committee to Director Cotton's presentation. I think that there is now a direction and a roadmap for this community engagement. We certainly heard and continue to hear negative feedback about how long it's taken, and there's been frustration about this feeling stuck, but also positive feedback about the direction that we're starting to go. So I want to express that enthusiasm and recognize that the work is starting to take off. And one of my constituents asked what I think was probably just the most basic question at a community meeting this week that really felt like it framed the problem exactly as it is, which is, it said, I'm working with a group of people and we want to plug into this. Who do we call? And the truth is there is not a person today that we call, and we're trying to solve that problem of who owns this. Who is the person who would respond to an email or a phone call about how to participate in this community engagement process? And we desperately need that. We've needed it for a while. And I'm really hopeful that we're going to get there. And I want to just really express gratitude for Council President Bender and Councilmember Cunningham's work towards that. I'll say there's been a lot of movement, and that movement has happened because of some, really relentless pushing on this question and proposing solutions and bringing things forward and, really pushing the issue. And I think it's important just that everybody hear publicly both how much work they're putting in and how much support this council has for that work, that we really are behind the effort to make sure that this gets staffed and supported. People need to see this engagement happening. It is overdue. Towards that end, in my finance subcommittee role, I am trying to predict the next level of bureaucratic hangups that we're going to run into as we now have a roadmap and we have a staffing plan. I want to make sure that we don't now get hung up in long procurement processes and so on. So I worked with our city coordinator to craft a resolution, and I'll say I would have brought it forward today if I thought it would have saved even a day in the process. What I'm hearing from stakeholders is that they can move forward with the work that's in front of them over the next 14 days without this resolution, so we have time to bring it through with a proper RCA and go through the committee process. But I would absolutely rush it through to signal the urgency of the work if I thought it would expedite this process at all. But wanted to let everybody know that having consulted with staff, it feels like this can wait for next cycle, and you can look forward to a resolution that just clears some of the hurdles and sort of pre-authorizes some of the spending that they're contemplating, so that they feel empowered to make those moves and put this plan immediately into action, so that we can get caught up with a process that I think most people expected would already be well underway.
Thank you. Are there any other comments on the committee report? I don't see any. So again, I do just want to thank the staff that have worked so much on this. All of the work that's happened in our city since the murder of George Floyd, it has dramatically shifted every department's work, and we are here to support the need to prioritize this conversation, the healing work that Council Vice President Jenkins is leading along with staff, the work of the specific things related to 38th and Chicago. So every single aspect of our city has been touched by George's death, by the outcrying and demand for change. And so we are, I think, in a place where we can move forward in a more structured way to help our city grapple with this. And I know that each of you as council members has been doing a huge amount of lifting, of hosting conversations, of answering questions, of bringing neighbors together. And so one of my biggest goals for this work is that all of the work that you are doing in your offices has a way to be captured in this more formal staff-driven process, so that when people contact us, they know that their voice is being integrated into this work, that it will inform the decisions that we have ahead. So thank you to all the staff in the coordinator's office, to Commissioner Musicant and Director Cotton, for everyone who has stepped up in the Public Works Department and in CPED and all of the departments across the enterprise. We are working really hard to make this more formal so that you are supported in doing this work, so that it is clear that this is a priority, and I look forward to finalizing those details very soon. Seeing no further comment, clerk will call the roll.
Councilmember Schrader.
Aye.
Councilmember Osman.
Aye.
Councilmember Cunningham.
Aye.
Councilmember Ellison.
Aye.
Councilmember Goodman.
Aye.
Councilmember Johnson.
Aye.
Councilmember Palmisano.
Aye.
Councilmember Gordon.
Aye.
Councilmember Kano.
Aye.
Councilmember Reich.
Aye.
Councilmember Fletcher.
Aye.
Vice President Jenkins.
Aye.
President Bender.
Aye.
There are 13 ayes.
That carries, and the report is adopted. Finally, we have the report from the Transportation and Public Works Committee, presented by the Chair, Councilmember Reich.
Thank you, Madam President. The committee forwards 13 items today. Item 1 is the sanitary sewer service availability charge. 2 is the sidewalk repair and construction assessments. 3 is the snow and ice removal from public sidewalk assessments. 4 is the contract amendments with Custom Products and Services, Stone Pros LLC for sidewalk and parking lot snow clearing, removal, and ice control services for special service districts. 5 is the contract amendment with Safety Signs LLC for the rental of traffic control devices. 6 is the contract amendment with Meyer Contracting Incorporated for 61st Street West Street Reconstruction Project. 7 is the contract amendment with Olson and Nesvold Engineering for 28th Avenue South Bridge Replacement Project. 8 is the contract amendment with the Suburban Elevator of Minnesota for elevator maintenance. 9 is the Weber Parkway 44th Avenue North, Lyndale Avenue North, Humboldt Avenue North from Penn Avenue North and Lyndale Avenue North Street Reconstruction Project. 10 is the 4th Street North and South Street Reconstruction Project designation and public hearing. 11 is the uniform assessment rates, established 2021 rates. 12 is the bid for Winona West Lift Station project. And 13 is the bid for pump station number 5 masonry and pier repair projects. Madam President, I move all 13 items.
Councilmember Reich has moved the committee report. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, clerk will call the roll.
Councilmember Schrader.
Aye.
Councilmember Osman.
Aye.
Councilmember Cunningham.
Aye.
Councilmember Ellison.
Aye.
Councilmember Goodman.
Aye.
Councilmember Johnson.
Aye.
Councilmember Palmisano.
Aye.
Councilmember Gordon.
Aye.
Councilmember Kano.
Aye.
Councilmember Reich.
Aye.
Councilmember Fletcher.
Aye.
Vice President Jenkins.
Aye.
President Bender.
Aye.
There are 13 ayes.
That carries and that report is adopted. I do want to note that we had a presentation at the Transportation and Public Works Committee for receive and file about the work happening at 38th and Chicago. In follow-up conversations with staff, it sounds like decisions about how to proceed for the interim winter solutions will be made by staff under direction from Mayor Fry and Council Vice President Jenkins and Councilmember Kano, who represent the area, and that further council action is not anticipated before those decisions are made. So I just want folks, especially my colleagues, to understand that that is the current thinking about how to proceed. I, of course, have stated that the council members of the area will have my full support, I'm sure our full support as a body, whether that looks like supporting their leadership more informally through the planned process of having the decision made by staff under the direction of the two council members and the mayor, or if it looks more like bringing something more formal through the council process. So please feel free to get in touch with me or, of course, the two council members with questions or any feedback about that. With that, we have completed the committee reports. The next item is notice of ordinance introductions. Councilmember Fletcher gives notice of intent to introduce at the next regular meeting the subject matter of an ordinance related to surveillance and adding a new article about facial recognition technology. Are there any questions or comments about that item? Seeing none, notice is given and no further action is required. That will come back next cycle. Next, we have the introduction and referral calendar. First, pursuant to notice, Councilmembers Schrader, Gordon, and Reich move to introduce, give first reading to, and refer to the Business Inspections, Housing, and Zoning Committee the subject matter of an ordinance amending the zoning code related to the implementation of built form policies pursuant to the Minneapolis 2040 Comprehensive Plan, which addresses several chapters that are highlighted on the agenda, as well as a companion ordinance addressing the same subject in the Land Subdivision Code. Second, pursuant to notice, Councilmembers Schrader, Gordon, and Reich move to introduce, give first reading to, and refer to the Business Inspections, Housing, and Zoning Committee the subject matter of an ordinance related to the Mississippi River Corridor Critical Plan Area, with several chapters involved as reflected on the agenda, as well as a companion ordinance addressing the same subject in the Land Subdivision Code. Any questions or comments on these introductions? Councilmember Fletcher.
Thank you, Council President. I was trying to get it on the notice on facial recognition, so we're jumping back an agenda item. But I just wanted to signal, just kind of let everybody know, this is not actually a new topic introduction as much as just signaling that I think the strategic decision as we're developing this ordinance is to separate out facial recognition from the rest of the surveillance technology work. And so we wanted to create a separate LIMS file and sort of a separate trackable process for this, but this is a topic area I think everyone is already aware we've been working on, and I would encourage anybody who's got feedback on either the use of facial recognition technology or data privacy and surveillance technology more broadly to get in touch. Thanks.
Thank you, Councilmember. Any comments or discussion on the two introduction items? Seeing none, clerk, I will move them. Is there a second?
Second.
The clerk will call the roll.
Councilmember Schrader.
Aye.
Councilmember Osman.
Aye.
Councilmember Cunningham.
Aye.
Councilmember Ellison.
Aye.
Councilmember Goodman.
Aye.
Councilmember Johnson.
Aye.
Councilmember Palmisano.
Aye.
Councilmember Gordon.
Aye.
Councilmember Kano.
Aye.
Councilmember Reich.
Aye.
Councilmember Fletcher.
Aye.
Vice President Jenkins.
Aye.
President Bender.
Aye.
There are 13 ayes.
That carries, and that item, those two items are introduced and referred to the proper committee. We previously took up the resolution item, so that brings us to the order of announcements here at the end of our agenda. Are there any announcements from council members? Seeing Councilmember Ellison.
Thank you, Madam President. Just wanted to go over a few election-related things. So yesterday was the 10th day of early voting for the presidential election, and by the end of the day, our elections team had collected a total of 27,762 completed absentee ballots, which is definitely going to put us on track for setting yet another record for turnout. And so I'm excited by this level of participation, and I want to share that our elections team is finalizing plans today to further expand ballot access in the coming weeks. So our clerk has noted that that a new website has been launched that is designed for voters to that is designed with voters in mind. That site shows that Minneapolis voters can participate in early voting at our elections headquarters located at 980 East Hennepin Avenue. I've seen pictures. A lot of folks are going there and voting early, as well as the Hennepin County Government Complex. We also look forward to opening 2 additional early voting centers on October 27th, one on the north side, one on the south side. So the Urban League on Plymouth Avenue is going to be the site for the North Side Early Voting Center, and Longfellow Park Recreation Center is going to be the site on the south side. And again, those facilities will be open on October 27th. A few more things I wanted to go over. I wanted to also note that we've heard from a lot of folks out in the community that they're looking for they're looking for us to do even more about ensuring safe and secure ballot access. So in order to meet that demand, I'm pleased to share that our elections team is working to expand access even more by opening several ballot drop-off sites across the city. The grant that we got approved with the Center for Tech and Civic Life will fund the operation of up to 10 fully staffed drop-off sites where voters will be able to safely and securely drop off their mail ballots for election work, for 2 election workers. And so they can drop it off with us and be reassured that their vote will be counted. So more specifics on locations and dates and times of those operations are going to be coming hopefully next week. With that, just we've got 1 month about 1 month until Election Day on November 3rd. So wanted to be sure that our elections team is wanted folks to be sure that our election team is working hard to ensure that every eligible voter has free, fair, and equitable access to the ballot box, and that we, the city, are doing everything we can to make that access as easy and convenient as possible for folks. So that's all I've got, and hopefully folks are getting out there and casting their votes. So thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Ellison. Typically the chair of our elections committee, which is no longer an official committee of the council, but still are the leader in the council on this issue. And I'll echo my thanks to all the staff in the clerk's office, the elections team that is working under such extraordinary circumstances to make sure that every voice is heard in this election. Our website is vote.minneapolismn.gov, and that's where you can find all of the information that Councilmember Ellison shared with updates about where to go to drop off your ballot, how to get answers to any questions that people have about voting this year. Don't hesitate to find answers to those questions. I know that we're all eager to make sure that everyone has the full information that they need. So thanks again. Council Vice President Jenkins.
Thank you, Madam President. I just wanted to announce and encourage people. First of all, I want to thank Councilmember Ellison for that update on the voting and really encourage people to get out and early vote. However, I want to announce that the deadline for completing the 2020 census had been extended by a federal judge through October 31st. However, the current administration has declared that the deadline will be Monday, October 5th. And so I'm just encouraging everybody, if you have not completed your census, please complete the census. So many community resources depend on it, including assistance with homelessness, maintaining our parks and libraries and schools, creating opportunities for job training, all the things that we need in our communities to continue to make them safe, healthy, and equitable depends on us completing the 2020 census. Doesn't matter if you are a citizen or not, we need everyone to complete the census to bring much needed resources to our deeply impacted communities. And that deadline, unfortunately, is October 5th. So please get out and complete the census. It takes less than 10 minutes. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Council Vice President. Councilmember Cunningham.
Thank you, Madam President. I'll just be very quick here. I want to share that there is going to be a peace walk tomorrow in North Minneapolis, led by Mothers Against Community Gun Violence. And it will be starting at 12 o'clock on Saturday. The location is Lincoln Elementary School, which is on 12th and Penn Avenue North. We will be marching to the North Commons Park. So I wanted to invite folks to this event in support of our community in response to gun violence that we've been seeing. So here's an opportunity to stand in solidarity and support our community. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Councilmember. Any further announcements? Seeing none, we've completed all of the items on today's agenda. With nothing further to come before the committee and without objection, I will declare this meeting adjourned. I hope everyone has a safe and peaceful weekend. Thanks.